1.33 Boy by Roald Dahl. Part 1.
Every now and then, a plain grey cardboard box was dished out to each boy in our house. And this, believe it or not, was a present from the great chocolate manufacturers, Cadbury. Inside the box there were 12 bars of chocolate, all of different shapes, all with different fillings and all with numbers from 1 to 12 stamped underneath. 11 of these bars were new inventions from the factory. The 12th was the control bar, one that we all knew well, usually a Cadbury's coffee cream bar. Also in the box was a sheet of paper with the numbers 1 to 12 on it, as well as 2 blank columns, one for giving marks to each chocolate from 0 to 10, and the other for comments. All we were required to do in return for this splendid gift was to taste very carefully each bar of chocolate, give it marks, and make an intelligent comment on why we liked or disliked it. It was a clever stunt. Cadbury's were using some of the greatest chocolate bar experts in the world to test out their new inventions. We were of a sensible age, between 13 and 18, and we knew intimately every chocolate bar in existence, from the milk flake to the lemon marshmallow. Quite obviously, our opinions on anything new would be valuable. All of us entered into this game with great gusto, sitting in our studies and nibbling each bar with the air of connoisseurs, giving our marks and making our comments. Too subtle for the common palate was one note that I remember writing down.
1.34 Part 2.
For me, the importance of all this was that I began to realize that the large chocolate companies actually did possess inventing rooms, and they took their inventing very seriously. I used to picture a long white room like a laboratory, with pots of chocolate and fudge and all sorts of other delicious fillings bubbling away on the stoves, while men and women in white coats moved between the bubbling pots, tasting and mixing and concocting their wonderful new inventions. I used to imagine myself working in one of these labs, and suddenly I would come up with something so unbearably delicious that I would grab it in my hand and go rushing out of the lab and along the corridor and right into the offices of the great Mr. Cadbury himself. "I've got it, sir!" I would shout, putting the chocolate in front of him. "It's fantastic! It's fabulous! It's marvellous! It's irresistible!" Slowly, the great man would pick up my newly invented chocolate, and he would take a small bite. He would roll it round his mouth. Then all at once, he would leap from his chair, crying, "You've got it! You've done it! It's a miracle!" He would slap me on the back and shout, "We'll sell it by the million! We'll sweep the world with this one! How on earth did you do it? Your salary is doubled!" It was lovely dreaming those dreams, and I have no doubt at all that 35 years later, when I was looking for a plot for my second book for children, I remembered those little cardboard boxes and the newly invented chocolates inside them, and I began to write a book called Charlie and the Chocolate Factory.
1.35 1.
From the age of about 7 till I was 16, I went to an all-girls school in North London.
2.
When I was little, and actually still now, I was absolutely terrified of spiders.
3.
When I was a young child, I used to have a lot of nightmares.
4.
From the age of about 9, I was ill and I had an overactive thyroid gland.
5.
When I was at primary school, I used to hate school dinners.
6.
When I was a kid, we always used to go on holiday down to Cardigan in West Wales.
1.36 1.
Adulthood. Neighbourhood.
2,
Friendship, membership, partnership, relationship.
3,
Boredom. Freedom. Wisdom.
4,
Curiosity, generosity, possibility.
5,
Awareness, happiness, illness, kindness, sadness.
6,
celebration, frustration, imagination, temptation.
7,
Achievement, amazement, disappointment, excitement, improvement.
1.37. 1,
Adult, adulthood.
2,
Celebrate, celebration.
3,
Curious, curiosity.
4,
Disappoint, disappointment.
5,
Free, freedom.
6,
Happy. Happiness.
7,
Relation, relationship.
1.38. 1,
Anger. Angry.
2,
Shame, ashamed.
3,
Death. Dead.
4,
Danger, dangerous.
5,
Belief, believe.
6,
Hatred, hate.
7,
Loss. Lose.
8,
Memory, remember.
1.39. 1,
My earliest memory, I must have been about 3, I guess, possibly 2, was when we'd been to a fun fair, and I would have gone with my brother, who's a bit older than me, and my parents, and I'd been bought a helium balloon, and for some reason the balloon had a snowman inside it. It was only September. I don't know why there was a snowman, but there was. And I took it out into the back garden, and because it was full of helium, obviously it was pulling on the string. It wanted to fly away. And I let go. I didn't let go by accident. I remember letting go on purpose to see what would happen. And of course what happened was the balloon flew up into the sky over the neighbours' trees and disappeared. And I was absolutely devastated, heartbroken by the loss of the balloon, and stood there crying and crying. And my dad had to go back to the fun fair and get me another identical balloon, which did nothing to console me. I kept crying and crying and crying, and that's my earliest memory. Not a very happy one.
2,
My earliest memory is probably from when I was about 3 or 4 years old, and it was Christmas, and I was at my nan's house with all my family, and my uncle was reading to me. He was reading The Little Mermaid, except that he was making it up. He wasn't actually reading the words in the book. He was just saying things like, Ariel went to buy some fish and chips and things like that. And that made me quite annoyed because I was at an age where I couldn't really read myself, but I knew that he was reading it wrong. So I got quite annoyed with him and told him to read it properly. But yeah, that's my earliest memory.
3,
My earliest memory is from when I must have been nearly 3, and we were moving house. We moved to a block of flats, and I remember arriving, and it was dark, and we'd had quite a long journey. And we arrived, and we went in the door, and we turned the lights on, and nothing happened. and the whole flat was completely black and dark. No power, no electricity, no lights. And I thought this was fantastic. And we had a torch, and I was just running around the hall and the rooms, finding all these new rooms, all with a torch. And I imagined that it was always going to be like that we'd arrived in a house that wasn't going to have light. So I was always going to have to use a torch. And I thought that was going to be brilliant. My mother was in tears. Obviously, she was very stressed from the journey and arriving somewhere and having no power. But I was really, really excited by it. And the next day, when the power came on, I was really disappointed.
1.40.
Are our first memories reliable, or are they always based on something people have told us? What age do most people's first memories come from? John Fisher has been reading a fascinating new book about memory by Professor Draaisma called How Memory Shapes Our Past, and he's going to answer these questions for us and more. Hello, John.
Hello.
Let's start at the beginning then. At what age do first memories generally occur?
Well, according to both past and present research, 80% of our first memories are of things which happened to us between the ages of 2 and 4. It's very unusual to remember anything that happened before that age.
Why is that?
There seem to be two main reasons, according to Professor Draaisma. The first reason is that before the age of 2, children don't have a clear sense of themselves as individuals. They can't usually identify themselves in a photo. And you know how a very small child enjoys seeing himself in a mirror, but he doesn't actually realise that the person he can see is him. Children of this age also have problems with the pronouns I and you, and a memory without I is impossible. That's to say, we can't begin to have memories until we have an awareness of self.
And the second reason?
The second reason is related to language. According to the research, first memories coincide with the development of linguistic skills, with a child learning to talk. And as far as autobiographical memory is concerned, it's essential for a child to be able to use the past tense, so that he or she can talk about something that happened in the past and then remember it.
I see. What are first memories normally about? I mean, is it possible to generalise at all?
Early memories seem to be related to strong emotions, such as happiness, unhappiness, pain, and surprise. Recent research suggests that 3/4 of first memories are related to fear, to frightening experiences like being left alone, or a large dog, or having an accident, things like falling off a swing in a park. And of course this makes sense, and bears out the evolutionary theory that the human memory is linked to self-preservation. You remember these things in order to be prepared if they happen again, so that you can protect yourself.
Are first memories only related to emotions, or are there any specific events that tend to become first memories?
The events that are most often remembered, and these are always related to one of the emotions I mentioned before, are the birth of a baby brother or sister, a death, or a family visit. Festive celebrations with bright lights were also mentioned quite frequently, much more frequently than events we might have expected to be significant, like a child's first day at school. Another interesting aspect is that first memories tend to be very visual. They're almost invariably described as pictures, not smells or sounds.
First memories are often considered unreliable in that perhaps sometimes they're not real memories, just things other people have told us about ourselves or that we have seen in photos. Is that true, according to Professor Draaisma?
Absolutely. He cites the famous case of the Swiss psychologist Jean Piaget.
1.41.
First memories are often considered unreliable in that perhaps sometimes they're not real memories, just things other people have told us about ourselves or that we have seen in photos. Is that true, according to Professor Draaisma?
Absolutely. He cites the famous case of the Swiss psychologist Jean Piaget. Piaget had always thought that his first memory was of